Boom.
Boom.
We're back. All right. Welcome to episode 3 of Zeke and Zonk Inside the Game. I'm Greg Swindell. That's Keith Moreland. And we are affectionately known as Zeke and Zonk. And this is our podcast, Inside the Game. Our guest this afternoon, he's been called a radio DJ, a stand-up comedian, a best-selling author, a recording artist, a TV personality, and a philanthropist. Our friend, Mr. Bobby Bones. Bobby, how you doing?
Pretty good. I saw the tweet that you had put out, and you were like, hey, somebody's going to be on our show that's done it all in radio, television, film. And they're like, Matthew McConaughey. And I was like, no, I'm not Matthew McConaughey. Oh, my God. It's going to be so disappointing for everybody who thinks it's Matthew McConaughey.
I went back on, and I went, no, it's not Matthew McConaughey.
Thank God, yeah.
No, but I hadn't seen you in a long time. Everything going well. I mean, I know you're up to like everything in the world.
You know, I think you know how it is in media these days. You're trying to do anything to survive and everything to survive all at once. I think you and I have talked a little bit. I mean, when I watch you call games, so that counts, right? In this world of like media, like I see Greg calling Texas baseball or whatever, and I'm like, hey, dude, nice job. So, you know, just surviving over here.
That's it. Oh, and my partner, Keith Moreland, that's it. We're doing the games together. I know you and Keith, I think y'all have known each other for a long time as well.
Well, it goes back to Penn Station. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which was an old Air Force airplane hangar in Austin that our studios were in back in the day whenever like radios had multiple studios and salespeople and like now it's just all like do it from your house. But yeah, we used to work. But also I used to like watch Keith play when I was a kid. So like, you know, all this is kind of cool to be here with you guys.
Well, you know what? Let's give some of the people you're with this sports show, and I know you're around sports, but I want to know a little bit about coming from Hot Springs or Arkansas. I think it's Hot Springs in at least that area, and you know, sort of making the transition into the world of media, because that's what all of it is, a media. It's, you know, whether it's a podcast or a show or broadcast of a sporting event, it's just media. Just talk to us about that transition.
Forever, I mean, 5-6 years old, what I wanted to do. So I remember being a young kid and telling my grandma, who raised me for a lot of my life, that I wanted to either be a comedian or on television or on radio. And luckily at this point now I've kind of done all of that to different levels of success. And so, you know, it's been pretty awesome. I loved Austin because, I mean, I'd never been before I took the job there. And to be honest, I hate UT so much because I'm from Arkansas. We're so jealous that I was like, I can never live in Austin, Texas. I can never live where the Longhorns are. And it ended up being my favorite city ever outside of like my home. I love Austin so much, and I grew up as an adult there. I still kind of have a hatred just generally for the brand, you know, because we have an inferiority complex at Arkansas, you know, so we see the Longhorn, we're like, we hate those guys. Our favorite teams are Arkansas on a Saturday, and anybody's playing Texas. So shout out to you guys.
Well, November 22nd, the Razorbacks are coming to Austin.
I think you guys have a better shot this year. Although I'll ask you this, you know, you beat Oklahoma, which killed my wife because she is a massive Sooner fan. And obviously their quarterback, they didn't know if Mateer was going to play, and he had the thumb injury, and he ends up playing, didn't play well. And I don't know when this is airing, but, you know, the Kentucky game last week I ended up watching till late because that game goes to overtime. I don't know. When you watch you guys' offense, because your defense is stout. Against Ohio State, the defense was stout. Like, no doubt about it. We knew that was going to be where the success was. But we thought there'd be a little more offensively. Is it that maybe Arch hasn't developed at the level you thought, or are there other deficiencies offensively?
Well, I'll start with this. I mean, as a guy that calls football and been around football for a long time, it starts up front, Bobby. That's the first thing. I just don't think that we have had the consistent offensive line play to establish a running game that allows everything else, play action, to go in. All that being said, I think that's the key basics of things of improvement each and every week. There's still some open receivers that haven't been hit. So that the development there is, you know, you hope that it's going to come at some point. Very fortunate to get out of Lexington, Kentucky with a win. I can tell you that. So, you know, a 4th and 1 at the 1 stop turns into a field goal to win the game. So I think Arch is the right guy. I think he'll eventually find it, but it's been a struggle so far this season.
I was
Yeah,
watching
I
the
think.
presser after the game, and I
Go
was
ahead.
listening to you guys' safety and this your safety. I forget his name, but he was like, "Hey, you guys aren't, really talking. We won the game. Like
Yeah.
we came to Kentucky, and he even referenced the game last year. I remember watching the Georgia Kentucky game, and Georgia just barely getting out of there, like eking out of there with a win. And yeah, Kentucky's not good, but I did like that you had a player, a defensive player on the other side of the ball, like speaking up and going, "Hey, we won a game on the road in the SEC. I don't feel like you guys are giving us the respect that possibly we deserve." How did you guys feel about that?
Well, they dropped again in the rankings. I mean, they dropped from 21 to 22, and you have a Tennessee team that the only team they really, I mean, they haven't really beaten anyone worth talking about. So I think it's very true. Keith was there. Keith went to the game in Lexington and toured a few of the what do you call
Oh
them?
yeah. Got to find Buffalo Trace and some bourbons.
But yeah, I believe it. I mean, to go anywhere in the SEC and win a ball game, regardless of how you do it, and you come out on top, it's going to be something good. But the thing about Arch, in my opinion, I think I read something where he's been touched or hit 60 times in 5 ball games. So that's that's unheard of. And I think they're now making plays for him on the run, where he can get out of the pocket and try to throw on the run, which he does that pretty well too.
Well, it's going to be interesting, guys, to see how this transforms. I mean, we got into a tough part of the season and got another tough road trip to Mississippi State this week, and then Vanderbilt, who's playing extremely good football, comes to town. So, 3 games at home in November may help things to be back at DKR. I want to go back to a little bit of the media, Bobby, and just to talk, because there's so many people that walk up to me or to Zeke and say, "Hey, we're really enjoying the games. What do y'all try to do?" Talk to us about the prep. People don't talk about what that you've done, not to just do your show, but to do a comedian show. I'm sitting down and writing to do I can't imagine getting in front of somebody for an hour and having to produce my own material. That's the first thing. Second thing is just hosting events. Everybody thinks that's an easy thing to do, and I know you've hosted a lot of events. So just go to the background and how do you do to prepare for things like that?
Well, it's technology makes it a bit easier in that. So I have obviously we do so much on our phone, but I can show you guys. Like I have tabs that stay constantly active. And so I basically have between my radio show and I have 4 other podcasts that I do. Like I have all the tabs for all the shows. So for example, Matt Castle, who played quarterback at USC and the
Yeah.
Patriots, we do a show. We do a show. The NFL hired us to do a show for them. So we have a show called Lots to Say. And in that, I've got 7. We just had a show yesterday with Eric Decker. So I had 7, 8 things that as I'm going and I think, oh, this will be interesting, I just constantly am loading things into tabs. My whole life is loading things into tabs and then differentiating what goes where. If I have, something that happened, I'll give you an example. I have a friend who is the associate AD at Oral Roberts University. And they don't have a football program, but they have a basketball program. And so they're dealing with NIL like everybody else. Theirs is a bit different. Their profit sharing is a bit different because they don't have a football program. But he did an auction where he was auctioning off, rounds of golf. He was auctioning off apparel from Oral Roberts. And what I like to do is go and support my friends. And I felt like I would just jack up all the prices for the auction items so they would just go for more, not really thinking I would win anything. And if I do, great, I'll pay for it. But there was this one thing that was broadcaster for a day, and it was probably for a kid. And I thought, I'll just jack this one up a little bit. It was in a cartoon. It was you get to come and sit with the play-by-play guy for Oral Roberts and put the headset on, in between halftime and take a picture with him. And I'm like, I'll bid on that, and that'll be fun, and somebody else will buy. I ended up winning it. So now I'm going to be the kid that has to go do broadcaster for a day. And so I'm telling this story, and I'm like, well, do I put this on my sports tab? Do I put this on the radio show tab? Do I do a stand-up comedy bit about it? So I do think that a lot of what now I do kind of just naturally is I always am thinking when something happens in my life, where can I talk about this? And then I'm inserting it into one of the mini tabs. But you guys know what that's like. When you're doing 4 and 5 different things, you kind of have to dedicate places. Well, that comedy special, I did a comedy special and CMT ended up buying it and picking it up. I'm not a naturally trained stand-up comic, as in I didn't start young, do the clubs, naturally cut my teeth doing, funny bones. And I literally was playing theaters because I had a music duo that was doing pretty well. And so I would go and do stand-up before my own show. Like I would open for me. And that's the best environment you can have, is opening for yourself, because the people there, they already like you. So I did about a year opening for my band, and then I went out and just did a tour, and I toured and toured and toured, and I got to be where I was about a C- comedian at best. And when COVID hit, there really wasn't a lot that you could do. I was still doing my radio show, but creatively, like I thought, man, I should use this time to write something. So I wrote this show called Comedically Inspirational, and it was a comedy show, but it was also with the jokes was also a bunch of my story and where I come from, a small town, Mountain Pine, Arkansas, 700 people. And, I don't come from the best circumstance. And so I wrote this show, and I toured it for about a year, shot it, CMT picked it up. That was probably the most demanding creative endeavor I have ever done, because, again, you have to get up there, and it's just you and a microphone, and you've committed to an hour, and there's people who paid like $70 to watch you make them laugh. So you're right. The comedy is by far the hardest part, because you don't have anything you can rely on. There's no friends in a room. If they don't laugh, you just got to move to the next thing.
I don't know how in the world did you. Now, you were talking about doing a show with Matt Castle. I know that you're much involved and pay attention to a lot of sports. Do you have a favorite sport that you like to talk about? I know you're working for the NFL and do the stuff for the NFL, but is football it? Is basketball it? Baseball it?
Really Matt and I do. We definitely focus on the NFL on that show, but my favorite is just Razorback football and basketball. Like, that's it. That's all we had in Arkansas. We didn't have any pro teams, obviously.
Strolling Nolan.
That's it. It's Arkansas football in the fall and basketball in the winter and spring. And so I'm fully dedicated. My goal was, whenever I get rich, I'm going to be someone who gives money to the program, not knowing the NIL could eventually be a thing. So now that I'm rich, it's awesome to have money, because they give you access to everything. It's awesome.
Well, I saw you talk about the football and basketball as your sports, but you got into it with the Razorback softball. How'd you get involved with that a little bit?
Well, my brother-in-law is the assistant head coach, so that helps.
Yeah.
So DJ Gasso is my brother-in-law, one of my great friends, but his mom is Patty Gasso, who's won 8 national championships at Oklahoma. So she's the greatest of all time. And so I originally started to follow Oklahoma softball because my family are all diehard OU fans. And so they're from Oklahoma. They love it. We had to watch the Thunder game last night in double overtime. I was ready to go to bed. Yeah. So through like a cousin, I feel like I'm an Oklahoma cousin fan, because I'm not a son or a daughter of Oklahoma by any means. But we would go and follow and watch Oklahoma in the College World Series. And I know Patty really well, and she would win national championships. And so when DJ went to Utah to be an assistant coach, we'd go to Utah and watch him at University of Utah. So I was a part of the process when he got the job, which was pretty cool at Arkansas. And so he's the assistant head coach, and he's excellent at what he does. His mom's obviously the greatest. But yeah, whenever you have family in it and it's your team, you become extremely involved.
I also want to bring up the baseball team. Coach Van Horn will eventually get that championship, but last year in the College World Series, Gage Wood put on one of the most dominant performances, I think, in baseball ever. I mean, a no-hitter, 19 strikeouts in the College World Series. Do you get a chance to watch that?
Of course. Yeah, it reminded me very much of Kerry Wood when he struck out 20. That I watched that as it was happening live as well, where he just had total control. And both those guys throw with velocity as well, right? Like, and you guys both know this better than I do because you both played at a higher level. But when you're throwing hard and also you've got control and you've got a little off speed, I mean, it was on. And so it was awesome. It didn't end the way we wanted to, obviously. But I would love for Coach Van Horn to get one, mostly because Coach he's like the greatest guy, and he's a Hall of Fame coach. We've gotten so close. I think that Oregon State game, I mean, that's what we all think. There's like 2 times in Arkansas history that we think of. the Oregon State, the foul ball that landed in between, and we ended up losing that game and then losing the next. But then also the very sad football fumble when Clint Sterner fumbled the ball. We're undefeated, a game away from playing for the national championship. Those are our two in my lifetime. I wasn't around in '69 whenever Houston's dad was. We played you guys.
Yep.
I wasn't around for that one, thank God. But the other two I was around there for.
Well, I was around for the one in '69, and that's just incredible to win that game up there. Now, we cannot have this conversation with Bobby Bones and not talk about Dancing with the Stars. We all watched. We all saw it. I read something that your quote was, you can't be bullied, or there was bullying going on. Any kind of competition, there's bullying going on. There's had to be bullying in that competition as well.
Well, that's a weird show for me because I never really had planned to go on it. I never submitted myself to be on it. I thought, I was doing American Idol. I spent 4 years on that show on ABC, and they, those shows, they are like healthily incestuous, as they want people that are on their shows to go on other shows and promote the shows that they're on. And so I was on Idol. I think it was maybe going into my third season on American Idol as like the head mentor. And they said, hey, go on Dancing with the Stars, and you'll be kicked off in like 4 weeks because nobody ever makes it on that show who can't dance. And I couldn't dance. And I was like, guys, I hear you, but I will kill myself trying to get as far as I can. Like, I don't do anything halfway in an unhealthy way. And they're like, trust us, you'll be fine. Well, I go on the show, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done because I was also doing the radio show, which in LA when I was working, it started at 3 a.m., not 5 a.m. So I would do the radio show. I would go and train for 6-7 hours a day. I was touring, doing stand-up a bit, and I was really struggling at dance because I have no ballroom dance background. I didn't know what an 8 count was. I didn't know anything. And what happens is there are hardcore fans of, it doesn't matter, you can use Dancing with the Stars as an example. They hated me because I wasn't good and I continued to last. And they don't tell you where you are. You just know you weren't in the bottom 3 every week. I ended up winning the show. And so where the bullying happened, and that was all in a response to somebody from this season, Alec Baldwin's wife, who was like, I was bullied off the show. And my response was, no. You weren't bullied off the show. Like, people can be mean to you and you can get bullied, but you got kicked off the show because not enough people voted for you, because you can't vote against somebody. Yeah. And so that's all it was. That went so viral. I couldn't believe it. I don't talk a lot about Dancing with the Stars because mostly I feel like a loser because I did it like 6 years ago. And I'm like, man, I don't want people to think I'm like holding on to some competition. But what had happened was every year that show is like re-announced as the new cast. Like, I was at Barstool doing a bunch of interviews, and it was the day they had re-announced a new cast. And so they were like, hey, what was your experience like? I've kind of had to relearn to not be embarrassed about that because I'm not, and I have the trophy, and my wife hates the trophy because I now have to move it to the studio. I don't get to keep it in the house. But because I'm proud of it because I was Vegas odds worst. I had the worst odds to win the show. I won the show. And now I've never watched those dances back ever. And so now I'm doing a series of me watching them back and commenting on them. And it's been tough to watch, but it's kind of cool to relive it because I think for the first time ever, I'm kind of proud of like the whole experience.
Are you going to release that in some type of show? I mean, if you're watching and redoing this, you're doing this for some type of recording.
We just started putting them out. They're on my YouTube channel at Bobby Bones channel. And so we just started putting them up. And I'm doing them like one dance at a time, like 5 minutes at a time. And it's so weird to watch me dance. Like, I cringe a little bit, to be honest. I'm like, oh man. So I get it. I get why people at first thought, man, this guy shouldn't be here. But man, by the end of it, like, I really grew. I was kind of proud of myself to watch the end of it. But yeah, so over on YouTube, it's at Bobby Bones channel. You can watch me slowly go through the dances every single week.
I was always wondering how exhausting, I mean, regardless of your work schedule, but just exhausting learning the dances. I mean, that on your legs and mentally, every way.
Yeah, it was tough for a couple of reasons. In the first week, and you can see when I recap the video, in the first week's dance, at the end, I'm celebrating so hard because I'd never even completed it in practice. Like, I practiced nonsense, but I never fully got it. But I got it on the show. And I jump up and I wipe out on camera, on the show. Like, I fall, I tear my shoulder. I tore like the top back here in my trap. And I had to go to the Titans. I had to come back and go to the Titans team doctor. And because the show doesn't want a lawsuit from like you injuring it further. And the Titans team doctor was like, "Hey, look, yeah, you've torn this, but nothing you're doing is going to continue to injure it as long as you have pain, like a pain tolerance, which I don't." He's like, "I can say you can keep going." And so he wrote me a note. I kept going. So all season, I had a dead right shoulder that was killing me. I was getting injections all the time, and I would train for. They have a maximum amount of time, which is 4 hours a day, and so I would train all 4 hours. But what I would do, and a little bit of this comes from like my semi-athletic background, was I would tape practice, and then I would go and train by myself. I would rent a studio by myself and train for another 3 or 4 hours with just the tape because I couldn't work with my partner anymore because there are limits they put on that.
Yeah.
So I was working like 7 or 8 hours. It was grueling on the body. I lost a bunch of weight during the show. Everybody does. But yeah, no, it was tough, but I'm glad I did it. And now I'm starting to not be as embarrassed about winning it.
I think I need to go on that show if you lose a lot of weight.
Oh, me
You do
too.
lose a lot of weight.
Well, it's just like being an athlete. I mean, you getting ready at spring training, everybody thinks, well, everybody's down in Florida or Arizona and they're hanging out. And spring training was the time that you got your body ready to go for 162 games. I know pitchers, as I say all the time, I mean, they only work every 5 days, Bobby. The rest of us that played every day, we had to be ready to play every day.
Well,
So
that's why we're only doing this podcast every 5 days. I'm getting back on the schedule.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
the first World Series ring I ever saw was Greg's. The first time I ever saw any, I've been lucky enough now to have a bunch of friends that have played at different levels, but the first World Series ring was that Diamondbacks ring that Swindell had. And I was like, dude, this is cool. He was like, you want to wear it? I was like, I don't, because I'm going to end up breaking it. It was like holding
Lunchbox
somebody's
put it
baby.
on.
Yeah, he did. It was like,
No,
I
it
don't
was
want to
great,
hold
'cause
somebody else's baby, and I don't want to wear somebody's like super expensive ring.
I've had a lot since I've telling friends that we're going to have you on the show how we met, and I tell them that a little league team in Austin they either lost a lot of stuff or just needed money to go to a tournament and play. And I was listening that morning, and I called in and said, I'll do it. And I think you were like, what? Greg's? No way. And so yeah, I came to the studio, gave the money, and we started playing softball, and the rest was history after that, thanks to Softball Ricky, too.
That's true. Softball Ricky, who still is managing Bevo. Like when I say this about Texas fans, individually, I love them. Like my best friends are Longhorn fans. Like from Softball Ricky, who again is, I would do anything for. I was a groomsman in his wedding. But it's when you're from Arkansas, that burnt orange, that is not a flavorful taste, boys.
Hey, this will lift your eyebrows a little bit. Out of high school, I was offered big Southwest Conference. I was offered by almost every school except Arkansas, and I wanted to go to Arkansas. I really did. Growing up, the color out of the hog on the helmet, watching the football games, but there was something about it, and I'm like, well. And then I did a regional there a few years ago, and I told one of the guys that was doing the interview, and I said, yeah, I wanted to play for Arkansas, but I never got an offer out of high school. So thankfully, I guess in my career, I made the right decision, or the only decision, to go to Texas.
Yeah, I think you made the right decision too, sadly, because you are synonymous with the Longhorns now. How do you because you do a great job at calling those games. Like, what was that growing into feeling confident while doing the games? Like, how long did that take you, Greg, to do?
Well, the first couple of years, Keith was there, and we weren't really working together. It was the 3-man booth. But it took a few years, but that man on the screen next to you, he taught me more than anything about broadcasting games and when to, and all it was with us was just banter going back and forth. I mean, it wasn't really, Keith did a great job calling the play-by-play, but it was mainly just two old farts up there talking baseball and being ex-Longhorns. But it took a while. The hardest thing for me was the opening, where it was live and you had to remember what you were going to say and stuff, instead of just going to not rehearsing it and have to think about it. But once the game started, baseball was baseball, and you just had to get used to sometimes getting on camera and being ready to talk about something just off the hip. But it was the opening and afterwards. But talking baseball, who wouldn't want to do that? And I feel like we did a good job for 8 or 9 years we were together.
Well, I got a question for you, Keith. So, I don't want to interrupt, but I have so many questions for you guys. Like, I'm a fan too. I feel like you're on my show for some reason. So, Keith, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
So obviously, I'm a massive baseball fan. Grew up massive Cubs fan. I'm not even wearing this because of you guys. I just finished a podcast and I was just wearing my Cubs sweater. Honestly, I feel like since the World Series, well, it's about to start with Toronto and obviously the Dodgers. And once it's over, all my baseball gear goes up. So I got to wear my Cubs stuff before the season's over. So that being said, like for you, and I know probably Greg had to deal with this too, but when you stop playing, and talking with Castle and even Eric Decker yesterday, like there's a time where so much of your identity is a ball player. Like
Yep.
that's all. It's all you've done from 6 years old up until your body physically can't do it anymore. Did you have a span of time where you were trying to figure out kind of who you were and what you wanted to do until you started to do what you're doing now and have been doing so well for so long?
Well, I've been broadcasting now. This will be 2026. Will be 30 years as a broadcaster. But when I got through playing, my first and foremost thought, I had one thing, and it really helped me. I wanted to show my kids that you needed a degree, so I went back and got my degree. And so I enrolled right in school, and that sort of got me going. And then to have us, who was the baseball coach, said, if you're here and you're in school, you're going to be working for me. So then I'm at Dish Falk. I'm involved in the baseball program. It was 2 years. We went to the College World Series. And then as I got through at that, I thought, if I'm going to stay in college coaching, I've got to go somewhere else. We had moved so much in baseball. I got traded a few times. So you have kids, you've got kids, I like them to be settled in one spot. So we made the decision that I'm not going to stay in the game of college coaching because I'd have to go somewhere else to take a head job or to take a job as a head coach. So I had a good friend that was from Philadelphia, knew me from winning the World Series in Philadelphia, and he was the voice of the Longhorns, named Bill Schoening. And Bill said, come out and do some baseball games. And oh, Bobby, those recordings, I still have some of them, are horrible. I was absolutely horrible. Didn't know how to get in, get out, and those other things. But it's the closest thing to playing that there is to broadcast a game. I get that same feeling if I'm doing an Oklahoma-Texas football game, which I did for a long time. My hands start to sweat the same as they did when I was playing. When we would get ready for big games, Greg and I had to get ready to go. He said we didn't practice, but we talked, back and forth. Hey, this is important. This is important. And you just get into the flow of the game and have fun with it after you get through that. I think Greg's personality, it took a little bit. Well, you and I know him for his personality, but it took a little bit for he's got this real unique personality in the sense that it's biting, but it's not out in front of you where I'm out in front of you a little bit. So it was get him going in that. And then it became really, really, really fun to go to the ballpark. It really didn't feel like we were working. It was more like we were sitting down having a couple of beers and just sitting in the stands. Can you believe that? Can you believe this? And then discussing why it happened.
Yeah, it took a while I didn't know what I could say and what I couldn't say on the game.
Hey,
there was so much that go ahead.
I'm there now. Yeah, I know I live in that world right now. Same thing. Don't know what I can and what I can't say.
Yeah,
oh yeah, I mean, it's still the same way.
Can I talk about this kid? Is it going to hurt his feelings? Is this going to hurt this mom's feelings? And it's like, well, finally, I just started kind of beating around the bush, I guess, and kind of letting a little bit of personality come out. But you said, I know you got the Cub thing on. Why a Cub fan growing up, for one? And you gave me that Mark Grace jersey a long time ago. Did I get it signed or did I not?
Well, no, one, no. Two, I've got
well, I need
list of.
I'm going.
Well,
I'll see him next week.
Okay, so here's the thing. No. Okay, that's awesome. I've got a white whale list of people that I've been trying to get as an interview for, at this point, 20 years. And there are three. David Letterman. There's only three left. David Letterman, Sting the wrestler, and Mark Grace. I can't get Mark Grace to return anything. I even wrote about him in my book. Number 17 was so instrumental to so much of my youth. I'm a Cubs fan because my stepdad was a Cubs fan, diehard, so he passed it on to me. You don't choose to be a Cubs fan, it chooses you, right? I don't know anybody that was born, in the 80s or before that just thought one day, I think I would like to be a Cubs fan, because it was a brutal existence. That being said, when Mark Grace was playing first, and Sandberg and Sean Dunston, and we could go through the list of like even Vance Law playing third base. And I remember the Palmeiro days back before, Andre Dawson was my guy. All like all those Cubs to me are such a big part of my childhood. I didn't have parents for a lot of my life. I didn't have a lot of stability, but I had two things. I had the freaking Cubs on WGN, and all the games were in the daytime because I didn't have lights.
Yep.
And so I'd come home from school, or I'd be watching the games, and Mark Grace, I was left-handed. I was a first baseman. That was the guy. And I put it on my list. And I have one video from him. It's so funny because I didn't even get it from him, but I did stand up at Andy Roddick, who's a dear friend of mine who I also know from living in Austin. He asked me to come and host his charity event. And he had Mark Grace do my intro video. And he's like, hey, it's Mark Grace. I want to introduce. That's the closest I've ever been to Mark Grace. So I've tried. I've tried every way possible. But I'm not going to give up on Gracie yet.
Well, as you're putting things in your phone, I just put it in mine. So I'm going. Fantasy camp starts November 2nd through the 8th. Gracie's always there. He's the judge in Kangaroo Court. And I will, if I can get him to FaceTime you, but I don't know your schedule, so we might not do that. But I will get him to come on your show.
Just tell him he probably knows. He's honestly going to be like, that psycho stalker will not leave me alone. But you can vouch for me and say, but he's a nice psycho stalker. Like one day, I'll fly out to Arizona. We'll do a little interview somewhere safe in public, where he doesn't think I'm going to do anything bad. But that's my white whale of 3 guests that I have not gotten.
Well, if you know Gracie, and once you get to know Gracie, he needs help getting up out of bed. I mean, he doesn't remember to wake up sometimes. So I'll refresh his memory, and we'll give you a little help when I get out there next week.
All right.
Yeah, just speaking of, you're talking about Cub fans. It is unique as being a guy that played there a long time in the '80s. You meet so many different people, Bobby, that they have no idea what kind of person or whatever, but they watched you every day in the afternoon in the '80s, and it all came from WGN and Harry Carey and the whole 9 yards. It's amazing the fan. You talk to other players, and they say, "Oh, we get a few things to come back." You would come back, and there'd be stuff from Argentina because it was all up on the satellite, and people were picking it up all over the country, and with the 2 superstations. And I've talked to a lot of Braves fans of the '82 or Braves players, and they're the same way. He said, "Oh my gosh, they were picking it up and watching us in Alaska and South America." It was amazing where all the fan mail came from.
Yeah, I watched you growing up too, Zonk.
Yeah, I know.
It would have been easier to be a Braves fan. I wish I would have fallen to the TBS world and won some championships. Like, that'd have been really nice way back in the day. All those, Bobby Cox.
You got 16. You were still a fan in 16.
Let me tell you a story about that. So I'd been trying to make it, like, on a national level. My radio show was doing great. I was in a couple hundred cities. I was starting to do some small TV work, but I really hadn't hit at all television-wise as far as doing anything consistently or even on the network. Like, I would do some cable stuff here and there, but I was grinding, like behind-the-scenes grinding. You guys know what it's like. And so I finally got a call from the CMAs, which is a big country music award show, but they don't really make the decisions on who comes on as a presenter, who comes on as a host. It's all network. It's all LA network. And so I got a call, and they were like, hey, we want you to come and present on the CMAs. And I was pumped because it was my first time ever that I'd been invited on a national award show to go out and actually talk and present. And they said, it'll be on this night. And I said, cool, I accept. Well, as we got closer to that night, because I accepted like 2 months prior, it ended up being Game 7 of the World Series. I called them and said, I can't come. I turned it down. I rejected. I politely, and I think one of the executive producers was a sports fan, and I said, I've been a Cubs fan my entire life. I said, my stepdad, heck, they haven't been there since 45. They haven't won it since 08. Like, I wasn't alive then, but my whole life I've been waiting for this, and it's Game 7. I watched us lose Game 2 to Cleveland at Wrigley. Like, I flew up to go to that game. I said, this might be the only time. There are dead people who never got to see this, who lived to be into their old age. So I rejected the offer, my first network appearance to do anything on television, to watch Game 7. And when it went into rain delay, I thought to myself, was this the worst decision I ever made? And we ended up winning. It was awesome. It was like it was worth it. It was so worth it. But I turned down that first network spot to watch Game 7 of the World Series.
A good Lord is a
Keith being the
good
Cub
Lord's
and
a
me
Cub
being
fan.
Cleveland.
Yeah, we had a pretty good bet
we had
on
a wager
this.
ourselves going. We were
But
very
there's no
interested.
the rain delay made a huge difference. All the momentum, the Indians, I still call them the Indians. The Indians had all the momentum, and that rain delay it came at a perfect time to allow things to happen. But yeah, did you get to know any of those guys? Rizzo was such a guy that was out in the public and such a wonderful guy. I don't know if you had an opportunity to meet him or ever have him on your show or anything. You ever talk to Anthony?
So I have it. So one of my best friends now is a guy named Brett Eldridge, who's a country singer, but he is a massive Cubs fan, and so he's friends with Rizzo. He's friends with like Hap now. It's Hap's like one of the last guys from that. We'll call him the old regime. And so I didn't know those guys, but I got to know Rossi a little bit because he was on Dancing with the Stars, oddly. And so
Okay.
after he retired, he went on Dancing with the Stars. And so him and I follow each other on Instagram and we talk a little bit. So I didn't know them then, but I've gotten to know a couple of them since that. But the organization's always been great to me because, again, one of the reasons that I wanted to make it was like to be able to do stuff that I never got to do as a kid. So, I've got to throw the first pitch out at Wrigley. I got to take my stepdad to Wrigley for the first time, because he had never been. And so to actually go on the field, like that's the stuff that's the coolest about any success that I've had is getting to do those things that I wasn't exposed to as a kid and always dreamed about that I'm getting to do now as like a real life adult.
Well, I did. Speaking of the first pitch, I did take a look online of your first pitch. And when we did games, Longhorn games, always graded the first pitch of the person, like if we had them in the booth later on. And it was a 3 out of 4 grading scale to me. You got the ball there. You got the ball in the air to the catcher. That's always important.
That's a
always
positive.
important, right? Because
Right.
I've thrown out the first pitch a few times, and it's probably the most nervous I've ever been because I'm expected to throw one over the plate, and I don't know if I could throw it 20 feet now. You good wave to the crowd when your name came out. You're left-handed, that's a bonus. But the only thing that I got crossed out was you didn't go 60 feet 6 inches. You didn't go all the way back on the purposely. You couldn't get it there, or you were told not to.
Neither. I appreciate the can't get it there remark. I respect it. So what I would say is, and I will give advice to people who are throwing first pitches. It's first of all, throw it higher than you think. Like regardless of what you think, throw it. Like if the catcher was holding the mitt above his head, that's where you think you should throw it. Because obviously that's why so many people skip it, right? You can't gain anything by throwing the perfect first pitch. You can lose a lot by throwing a bad first pitch. Because my friends that sing for a living, they say the same thing about the national anthem. Like they love the song, but if you go out and you crush it and you do the greatest job possible, you hit every note with perfect precision, the crowd screams, it's amazing. They forget about you in 1 second because they're there to watch the game. So you can't actually gain anything, but if you sing a bad national anthem, it goes viral.
Right.
You mess up a word, it goes viral. Same thing with the first pitch. You're there because it's cool. There's no need. You're not going to prove anything to anybody. You want to walk up 6 feet and be on the front edge of the mound? Do that. You want to step in the grass? Do that. Because if you get on the rubber, and let's say you throw it great, nobody cares. But if you don't, everybody's going to hold it against you for the rest of your life.
Well, the Zeke and Zonk show, we grade hard on 60 foot 6.
And 60 feet is important, and we think that's important.
I think for me now, my wife's pregnant. We're about to have our first kid.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so that, we waited. I mean, I waited a long time to get married. I never thought I would get married until I met my wife. And so it was totally a person thing because I was like, I'm probably just going to be alone forever. But we're about to have a kid and we're very excited about that. And let me hold on.
He's back.
I hope. I don't know.
Okay. Ask the question again.
Okay, we'll edit this out. You've done so much in the course of your lifetime in the entertainment industry. I mean, like you said, stand-up comic, radio host, Dancing with the Stars. What's the next 20 years? What do you want to do? What are some of the things that are still out in front of you?
My wife's pregnant. We're excited about that. I've never had a kid before, So we're going to do that little science experiment. I hear it's super easy and super cheap.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. Can't wait for that. And then, what's so valuable now, just to be like down in the weeds with the media thing, is like owning your own IP. So I work for a company. I love it. iHeartRadio is amazing. I work for ABC. I work for all these places, and I'm basically like a hired mercenary for them. Like I go in, I do a great job. I've been doing that show for iHeartRadio for 20 years, and it's been wildly successful. But I'm starting to build out other things too that either I partner with them in, but that I have ownership in. And so, media is so scattered and fractured now that you can go basically anywhere. And if you do a good job, enough people are going to come to it. And so for me, it's about, we've built full studios. We bought buildings to build out studios. I have 12 shows underneath me that I own. It's just about expanding the empire, but I don't have to worry about paying the bills like I used to. And so that gives me such freedom to just do what I want. Forever, it was just, can I pay the bills? Can I buy the groceries? But the fact now that I'm secure, I like to, donate a lot of NIL money to Arkansas. I'm not going to lie. Like, I want to continue that happening. Two, it's
great.
just
I gotta tell you, it's great.
Just keep building things that I love to build and doing things I love to do. And that's such a cliche answer, but I've never actually felt that I could do it because I had to maintain other things at a certain level. So, it's even doing sports. I do the show for the NFL, but I have another podcast that I do called 25 Whistles that's sports with my best friends, and it does well. And so to do the stuff that I love to do, that ends up being a good product because I love to do it. And I think that's kind of what the joy is now. And so we'll wait on the kid, and we'll donate to the foundation, Woo Pig Suey, and we'll keep making the content as we go.
Well, I know you don't do a lot of podcasts on this end. You're usually on our end, but I appreciate you taking the time, talking to us, and catching up and hearing your story. It's a great story. Also, your 2 books. I mean, you got 2 books out there. I think the title of them probably says a lot about you and understand where you came from. So appreciate everything, and we'll be listening, and we'll be seeing you.
All right, good to see you guys. Thank you for talking with me. And again, watch both of you guys play ball growing up, so it's super cool to be talking to you guys, and also just to watch you guys on like the second version of your career at a high level. Like it's so hard to do it once, but both of you guys are now doing it at an exceptional level a second time. And obviously, Keith, you've been doing it in your area for a long time. And again, we used to work in the same building together, but also to watch Greg like on ESPN do those games, I was like, dang, that's crazy. Greg actually sounds good, because he sounded like he knew what he was doing. I was like, that's crazy to watch Wendell up there doing the games, because obviously I knew he knew what to do, but like he was good at it. So good to talk to you guys, and much success with the podcast. You're going to learn the hardest thing is not doing the podcast and doing a great one. It's showing up every single week and figuring out what the heck are we going to talk about this week.
Well, you have people like you. It makes it very easy, Bobby. Thank you.
All right. See you guys later.
All righty.
Thanks.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
That was awesome. See you guys.
See you.
Yep.
Welcome back to the Zeke and Zonk Show, Inside Sports. Take this opportunity, Zeke, to sort of look at this. As we're recording this week's episode, the first thing that jumped off the page to me that I keep reading about, I don't know if it's official yet, but there's a chance that a college baseball coach is going to make the transition from a college coach to become a coach at the major league level. I don't ever remember this happening in my lifetime.
Tony Vitello, who's kind of put Tennessee baseball on the map. They've always been a good program, but now they're a powerhouse every year, is the University of Tennessee. And no coach has ever gone straight from college to the major league level without any major league experience playing or coaching. So this is a thing that's unprecedented. He's obviously done a really good job
no doubt.
At Tennessee, and Buster Posey, knowing him out there in San Francisco, probably going to be a pretty good chance that he's your next manager of the San Francisco Giants.
You look at that thing, and Tony if you watch him, he's very active, very busy in the dugout, very active in the game. You see him quite a bit as a broadcaster, or when you watch the games or at the stadium where they play. That's for a college week and a college year, which is 56 regular season games plus playoffs and World Series. Now you go take 30 spring training games and 162. You and I both had to make that huge adjustment when we made the transition to become professional players. Just talk to us about how does he stay emotionally within himself for that long a time? That is going to be a very difficult thing for him, I believe, that first year especially.
Well, you would have to give him more than a year. I mean, it's gonna be a lot of patience. You can't really talk to major league players like you can a amateur college player. A lot of different egos, a lot of money that the players are making. He is high energy, and as you know, as a player, you can't be like that every day for 162
it's just hard
games.
To do anyway.
You can try to do. Right. It's hard to do. I mean, maybe he can, but from what we see, he is high energy. He gets after it. He loves the game. But that's going to be a biggest thing for me would be learning the locker room, learning go to spring training. You might have 100 players in there, knowing the organization. I mean, it's really it seems odd to me that they would go to hire a manager at the big league level with never having any experience in professional baseball.
And then the other part of this, how about his staff? I mean, that's going to be so important to put together guys that have been around the pro game for a long time and understand some help. I mean, that bench coach and just everybody involved is going to be – they're going to have difficult jobs, I think, at the beginning. Not that he may turn into be one of the greatest managers of all time. I don't know that, but it is so different. There is so many different things that are going on in a major league team than there is in a college team. You think, well, it's just, it's 9 innings, it's 27 outs, it's throwing strikes, but that's not always necessary the same thing at the professional level as it is in college.
No, I think the staff will be the biggest thing. He's going to have to understand that team. We've been around the game a long time. Managers, yeah, there's great managers and they make decisions every once in a while, and some are wrong, some are right. But I always say great managers are only as good as their coaching staff. And you have to really trust your bench coach. You have to really trust your hitting coaches. I don't know how much he knows about pitching at the professional level, but you're going to have to understand that pitching coach is going to be, I mean, what will win you championships. So imagine Buster Posey would have a lot to say with it in the front office, and maybe it could be a manager that's going to listen to the front office and not manage his way. Yeah. You hear a lot about that these days of managers just going by paper and not going by heart and things like that. Yeah. So it's interesting. Excited for him. Congratulations. On the flip side of that, what's the University of Tennessee going to do?
Yeah, and plus you're at a part of the year where fall's already gone through. Especially the teams in the northern part, because the weather's going to start to cool. Most of them have had their fall camp, so to speak, and now they're in strength training and that kind of thing. So there's going to have to be some decisions made. That's just interesting that's come up right before we came on to record this podcast. And then the next thing I would like to go to take a look at this week, each week we try to look at certain things, is Texas, the Longhorns have to go on the road again to start Vegas. It's a difficult place against a team that has struggled in conference play, but you know that there's going to be a bullseye. This is not going to be an easy win. Everybody thinks that there's, they're not that good. Well, these type of games are really hard to go win, and it's going to be a tough one to go get done Saturday afternoon. I think it's a 3:00 in the afternoon start.
Well, you have to wonder. They went to Dallas. They played OU. Took a lot out of them.
Yep.
Right? Big rivalry, been around over 100 years. You go up to Lexington, play Kentucky, go to overtime. I mean, that's draining. You could, your offense, you wanted them to do better. Luckily, that defense is one of the elite top 3 in the nation.
Yeah, it's good.
And I believe yesterday, Michael Taffy had surgery on his thumb.
Yeah,
so you're going to be missing him for maybe a few weeks, a few more games. So that's going to hurt. You're going to have a new defensive back there for Texas, but it's the last couple of weeks have just been so draining for them. You just got to wonder who's going to step up now, because Taffy's a leader on that team, not only just on the defense, but just the whole team, kind of a spokesman for the Longhorns when they talk after the game. So it's interesting. It is a tough place to play. Anytime on the road in the SEC, you hear that, it's hard to win in the SEC. Well, go on the road and winning's even tougher.
Yeah, and the other part of that is Michael is so important in the special teams too. He plays most of the special teams, and you're losing an elite player, an All-American player. There's no question about that. So it is going to be difficult. And the other part of it is, I think the last thing you got to look at, one of these games, somebody's going to have to step up, and they're going to have to find a way to run the football and get something going in the running game. And I know that they've had injuries in the tailback room, but somebody's going to have to step up either on the offensive line and start creating some more holes, or somebody's going to have to start breaking some tackles, because they got to find a way to run the football.
Yeah, I mean, right now, what we've seen in the last few weeks, they're going to have to break tackles because the offensive line hasn't been doing their job, and that's tough for Arch. That's tough for the running backs. It's tough for the linemen. I mean, it's tough on everyone because people are frustrated. Fans are frustrated. Coaching staff, I'm sure, is over there just biting their tongues half the time. So the offensive line, if Texas can figure out that and they can start doing their job, Texas will be a pretty good football team. But as long as the other teams have been scouting Texas the last couple of weeks, so they've seen this offensive line. So you got to go above and beyond the rest of the season if you're an offensive line.
Yeah, I need to start finding out some run blitzes to try to stop it. Well, it was a fun week. You've got the Fredericksburg Food and Wine Festival going on in your hometown this week. Are you going to enjoy the weekend?
I've been putting together furniture, and now this week, right now, it's happening. My wife Sarah's at an event. She's doing a great job. Haley and Sam Wakefield, my daughter and son-in-law, they're producing it pretty much and putting this thing on. Got family coming in. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty, I wouldn't say wild. When you drink wine, it doesn't get really wild.
Oh,
so
okay.
It'll be fun seeing everyone and fun seeing the event come to fruition, because this is the first time we've been able to go to it and be here as it's going on.
Well, y'all have fun this weekend. We'll talk next week. Folks, we thank you for listening. I'm Zonk. He's Zeke. We're gone. See ya.